She joins me now live from New York. Malala, it's really good to see you again. Thank you very much for joining us here on the program. We'll talk a little bit about your own situation, but you and I, over the last almost 3 years now, we've gotten to 1,000 days, have marked these moments at different intervals, just so the world doesn't forget the fact that girls over the age of 12 in Afghanistan are being banned from going to school, and of course women as well from university.
It is a dark anniversary, 1,000 days since the Taliban have banned girls from attending school after grade 6. They are not only denying them their right to education, but they are denying them the right to a future. Afghan women cannot have any participation in politics, in work, in public life. And this complete erasure of women from these rights is a systematic oppression that Afghan women and girls are facing. It is an unimaginable reality that Afghan girls are witnessing, and that's why this is so important for us today to stand with Afghan girls.
I mean, it's not even politics. I just said there in my introduction, the most basic thing where a mother wants to take, her child to the park to play, she is actually not allowed to go out into a public park, for example, not allowed to go to a salon, not allowed to there's been edicts sent out to say that do not leave your homes unless it's absolutely necessary.
Of course, there's discrimination against women in every part of the world, and there's gender persecution in some countries as well. But what the Taliban are doing in Afghanistan is a systematic oppression of women and girls in Afghanistan, as you rightly said, from banning them to even see a doctor or visit a park or go to a salon, attend a school, be in politics. And this is the thing we need to note down, that the life of Afghan women before the Taliban take over was not like this. These women were in politics, they were in professions, they were dentists, they were journalists, they were football players, they were part of a robotics team, they were in school. And of course, there were challenges, but the Taliban have made things a lot worse for women and girls there. And here's what is important for us to recognize, that this is a systematic oppression. Afghan women rights activists are calling it a gender apartheid, which means that this needs to be part of the Crime Against Humanity Treaty. It needs to be treated as it is. It is one of the worst crimes that has been committed against women. And this should not just be allowed to happen, and we should not be silent. We should not look away. It has been happening for more than for up to 3 years. And I remember the time. I remember when the Taliban took control again, and people said we should give more time to the Taliban. We should give them maybe 100 days, maybe one more year. But we have seen it has been 1,000 days. Schools after grade 6 are still closed for girls. Women are still denied their rights. And as you mentioned, the edicts and decrees every day are announced, and that they are limiting women more in their jobs, in their movement outside their houses, in any opportunity that you can think of. This has to change.
Yeah, I mean, when the Taliban came to power the first time in the 90s, we saw that they banned girls from an education. And then there was this whole campaign of never again, and this is a new Taliban. It's a different Taliban. It's Taliban 2.0. They've changed. They're not going to ban girls from education. And here we are, almost 3 years on, 1,000 days, where young girls over the age of 12, I mean, you hear the heartbreak of an 11-year-old. Someone who gets to grade 5 or 6 is terrified because they know this is the end of the journey for them.
I want to stand with Afghan girls. They deserve an education. They cannot be denied this right. And it's so important for us to show our solidarity and support with them. They are the face of this campaign. They are the true representatives who are calling us that we need to build more pressure. We need to hold our leaders to account. We need to call on more Muslim country leaders as well to step forward and say that we cannot justify the actions that the Taliban are taking under the name of Islam in any Islamic context. The Taliban cannot be allowed to use the excuse of religion and culture to prevent women from their basic human rights and to prevent girls from the right to an education. This has to change, and that's why calling it a gender apartheid is important, and it's important to make it part of the international law so that we can hold our leaders to account. We can
Are they
hold
listening?
those to account.
Are they listening, Malala? You know, it's being described as gender apartheid. Many activists have come out, you know, using that phrase. Afghan women who are in the diaspora, those who have also fled since the Taliban takeover. You have addressed world leaders about it. There is a push to have the UN and the international community recognize it. But frankly, there's been silence on this issue.
It breaks my heart when I witness the fact that it has been such a long time. I think Afghan women cannot be patient anymore. It is putting their future and their lives at risk. We are hearing stories of women who in Afghanistan are protesting on the streets and how they are tortured, how they are put in prisons, how they're beaten up. We know that in Afghanistan, the female suicide rate is higher than any other country. It is the only country where there's a higher rate of female suicide. Uh, Afghan girls do not see a future for themselves. Leaders, I have seen them proudly say that they care about gender equality and they want to see a world where girls are treated fairly, but we see the worst example of it happening in Afghanistan right now. So I do hope that leaders are held accountable. That's why these changes are important. That's why activism is important. And I hope that everybody who's listening right now, they would call on their representatives and ask them, what are they doing? When they say that they care about women, they care about gender equality, what are they doing for Afghan women? And I hope that we will use all that we have in our capacity to ensure that we stand with the women of Afghanistan.
Yeah, and the reality also is the Taliban are also sending their own daughters to overseas countries to be educated. Malala, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.